On night 2 of the 2023 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers selected 3 weapons for Jordan Love, including a couple tradebacks, one of which was with the Lions, which means there was collusion with ourselves? Grossi Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Podcast, the podcast where you don't have to be Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. We got weapons, Grossi, and today we are going to be breaking down all of the night 2 picks of the Green Bay Packers, all 3 of them, all offense after starting this NFL draft with Lucas Van Ness going after an edge rusher, getting that depth, getting that guy who could line up in Rashawn Gary's absence. And now, today was all about Jordan Love. And listen, I'm going to start off this entire video with one thing. Myself, Tom Grossi, I love Darnell Washington. I loved his tape. I loved him as a blocker. I love the fact that he basically was an offensive lineman who also had pretty good hands. But he fell down to the end of the third to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think it was a good reminder that we know nothing. The fans, the analysts, all that great stuff, we can try and predict and assign values to these players. But at the end of the day, the GMs, they're having different conversations. They have scouting teams for this purpose. And I just want to put that out there because, yes, it gets silly, and I have draft crushes, and of course I'm upset when they trade with the Lions when they need a safety, and the Lions then draft Brian Branch, which makes me very angry, but it's fine, because at the end of the day, we are just rooting for our team. We want what's best for our team, and I like to think, hey, I know the Packers decently well, in which I guessed 5 of their draft picks last year, but this year, I sucked, and that's okay. At the end of the day, I just want the Green Bay Packers to do well, and I think that there is some upside for all 3 of the guys that they drafted on night 2, and that's what I'm excited about. So in today's video, it's not going to be boo-hoo or yay. Instead, it's going to be an unbiased look of what I think about each player, how they can fit within the Green Bay Packers, and if I think at the end of the day, it's a solid pick, or if I'm a little underwhelmed. But take my opinion with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, draft grades don't matter until 3 years down the line. And so, with that, let's jump into this. With the 42nd pick, the Green Bay Packers addressed tight end because, oh boy, tight end was one of their biggest needs. We just have Josiah DeGuara and Tyler Davis on the team right now, and they decided to address it with Luke Musgrave, the tight end for Oregon State. Already a prototypical Green Bay Packers pick, had a 9.7 RAS score, 6'6", 253 pounds, ran a 4.6 140. Guy has some speed, and this guy is a great pass catcher. In 2021, had 22 receptions for over 300 yards, only 1 touchdown. But if you go back and actually watch some of his tape, which I did when we broke down the tight end video, the guy can definitely ball. On top of that, he's a decent blocker. In 2022, only played 2 games, but really started off well, had 11 receptions, which was half of what he had in all of 2021 for 169 yards and a touchdown, but unfortunately suffered a knee injury, which is definitely concerning because you're drafting a 6'6 guy with a knee injury. This is one of the reasons why Darnell Washington fell so far, a 6'7 guy with a foot and knee injury. You got to worry about it. But the Green Bay Packers went through all the medicals and were comfortable enough with drafting him, so I'm okay with it. But a smooth runner, has a ton of potential, and finally can be that weapon that we've needed at tight end. They basically got wide receiver locked down, even though it's a very young wide receiver core. Don't be surprised if they go out and get a veteran wide receiver, whoever's hanging out around there in free agency. But Luke Musgrave has the potential to be great. And that's what the draft is all about. It's not what they did in college or anything like that. It's what they could be. Lucas Van Ness, technically not a starter, but has those amazing athletic intangibles that the Green Bay Packers go, yup, That's our guy. Can go interior, can go outside, and it's the same thing with Luke Musgrave. But I think the Packers are going to use him as a weapon, and that is something that we just have not had for a while. Robert Tonyan had that double-digit TD season a couple of years ago, but other than that, we kind of been just waiting. Josiah DeGuara, who I have said on this channel, I think will take a step this upcoming year because every time Jordan Love has played, he has targeted Josiah DeGuara, in which Aaron Rodgers just has not. Of course, DeGuara suffered that injury that first year in his rookie season, and that really set him back. But here, Jordan Love is probably going to target him because he comes from the same draft class. But Luke Musgrave can be that weapon, kind of create those mismatches, and hopefully we can have a real threat at tight end in the passing game because we've just been lacking that for such a long time. So the potential here for Luke Musgrave is great. Now, concerns, of course, are the injury, him bouncing back from that knee. And on top of that, there's just not a ton of tape on Luke Musgrave. So we're just hoping that his amazing athleticism kind of just makes up for that. And hopefully his future is very bright with the Packers. Then with the 50th overall pick in the draft, the Packers addressed wide receiver, where we love to draft our wide receivers. Not in the first round, never. But the second round, we got Jaden Reed, the wide receiver from Michigan State. And this is probably the most shocking pick that I really have witnessed from the Packers in quite some time, because this guy does not check any boxes about what the Packers usually go for. The RAS score, pretty darn low. He's 5'11", under 190 pounds. Really not the kind of guy that the Packers go for. But if you just look at him and look at his tape, this wide receiver can be a lot of fun. Ran a 4.45, has blazing speed, and even though he's a little bit on the smaller size, he has no problem going up for contested catches. He is ruthless when it comes to ripping away the ball. The thing that stands out to me the most is his adjustment to really bad throws, because he's had a bunch of them. And in 2021, he absolutely broke out. 59 receptions for over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. The following year in 2022, had 55 receptions for over 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. Also had 3 punt returns for touchdowns, so he can also participate in special teams. I know that we just re-signed Keyshawn Nixon, and I hope he stays there for a very, very long time. But just in case, we do have Jaden Reed. And while he is a smaller guy, I imagine he is going to play the slot. He could play outside, but I imagine that he's going to be primarily a slot receiver. And the thing that brings me some optimism is the fact that we don't have Randall Cobb. And what I mean by that, because I love Randall Cobb, don't get me wrong, but what I like about that is my biggest concern is that they're going to treat him like Amari Rodgers. They threw Amari Rodgers back there to return punts, and he sucked. And he wasn't good, but they kept throwing him back there. They never really gave him a chance on offense, and then he petered out, and then he was gone. I pray that doesn't happen for Jaden Reed. I think he has a lot of talent, and I just hope that the Packers utilize him in the way that really just makes him succeed and fits his talents the best. That's my biggest concern. It's not even the player, it's how the Packers utilize him, because they usually don't draft this kind of guy. Now, I think that it is a little bit of a reach, but that is very subjective considering the Packers moved back. They ignored Brian Branch, Cedric Tillman, all these other guys that I think could have gone earlier. But the Packers saw something in Jaden Reed, and the fact that they were willing to draft an outlier that goes against the grain, that goes against their draft philosophy, it's me hoping and being optimistic that they see something special in him. So there are definite concerns. There's concerns about the fact that maybe they overreached, but at the end of the day, who cares as long as he's a good player? But I just hope they utilize him well. It's a great target for Jordan Love, and it just adds a little bit of flavor to what they're trying to build on offense. Because we're going to talk about Tucker Kraft and the fact that they might run 2 tight end sets, but the fact that you have Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, and now you have Luke Musgrave. You might have Kraft there in a 2 tight end set who either can block and or go out for some passes. There's some really cool combinations that Matt LaFleur can work with. LaFleur loves to mix things up on offense, and I think Jaden Reed could fit very well in that scheme. I just hope, again, they utilize him to the best of his abilities. Oh, and it's also Jaden Reed's birthday, so happy birthday, getting drafted on your B-Day. And then with the 78th overall pick, the Green Bay Packers go for basically the purest Wisconsin guy they could. They go Tucker Kraft, the tight end from South Dakota State. Had an RAS score of 9.68, 6'5", 254 pounds, ran a 4.69 40, so a little bit slower than Luke Musgrave, but still just as athletic. Good at run blocking, so he definitely can be that blocking tight end that we need. That's why I like Darnell Washington so much, but also could be a pass threat because he is just a great athlete. In 2021, had over 700 yards and 6 touchdowns. Unfortunately, had an ankle injury in 2022, though he did still play 9 games and he had 3 touchdowns. Again, some injury concerns there as well. But getting 2 tight ends here that can be weapons, also Kraft being able to block, this is a great thing because it's a different type of offense than we have seen with the Green Bay Packers. And what is the best thing that you can do for a young QB? Give them some big 6'5", 6'6" guys to throw to, whether it's in the red zone, whether it's underneath, and that's what the Green Bay Packers have done. These day 2 picks, they have surrounded Jordan Love with a bunch of weapons, and I'm super excited because it is just it's just different than what we've seen before. And on top of that, I think I've just already fallen in love with him, not just because of Kraft macaroni and cheese, but he's already alluded to his first Lambeau leap and how angry it's going to make Bears fans. And on top of that, he had a little bit of a flub during his meeting with the Packers tonight and said that he had a couple of drinks before getting drafted. I love him. He's pure Wisconsin already. So this combination of drafting Kraft with Musgrave, I think is just phenomenal. I'm curious to see how LaFleur is going to utilize him. I know he wants to use tight ends in different ways. That's why he drafted Josiah DeGuara when he already had tight ends on the team. Looking at you, Jay Sternberger. But overall, I'm really excited about the potential. The injuries do concern me, but at the end of the day, I'm excited to see something different. And just to mention a couple of other things, the Green Bay Packers on day 3, as I said, they traded back a couple of times. They have 9 picks. They already had a bunch of 7th round picks, but now they have some ammunition if they want to move up. And I really just got the sense in this draft, and this is for every team, I got the sense that this was just a weaker draft class. And so maybe the Packers now can decide, hey, you know what? Let's move up into the 4th round. They had the ammunition to do so. But this is where you can potentially get those guys that could provide depth to your team. And maybe you can find some gold as well. But the Green Bay Packers definitely had a theme for night 2. It was get weapons for Jordan Love. They did that. Now it's just time to see how good is Jordan Love. Let's see what his development looks like, and let's see if these guys can contribute, because tight end is a tough position to transition from college to the pros. Let's see how it works out. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. How do you feel about these day 2 picks for the Packers? Let me know. You guys find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or Tom Grossi Comedy, all social media, see down below. Check out Patcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout and thank you to all the patrons over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy and the YouTube members. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.